Vuca-Flux, and Bani. Vuca, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, describes a turbulent business environment requiring reactive, strategic planning to manage instability. Conversely, flux, fast, liquid, uncharted, experimental, describes a continuous state of transformation, demanding proactive adaptability, agility, and a test-and-learn mindset to thrive in an AI-driven, ever-evolving world. Vuca. Introduced in the late 1980s, Vuca is a framework designed to help leaders navigate, plan for, and mitigate risks in a chaotic business landscape. The first element, volatile, refers to the speed and intensity of change. Conditions can shift suddenly and dramatically, often without warning, forcing organizations to respond quickly. Uncertain describes the difficulty of predicting the future. Even with data and experience, outcomes remain unclear, making long-term planning increasingly challenging. Complex arises when multiple interconnected factors influence a situation. Cause and effect are no longer obvious, and a single decision can trigger unexpected consequences across the system. Ambiguous reflects the lack of clarity in many situations. The same information can be interpreted in different ways, with no single right answer. Focusing on risk management, scenario planning, and creating structured responses to crises. Flux. Flux is a newer framework for the AI era, shifting focus from merely reacting to chaos to embracing, leveraging, and navigating continuous change. The first element, fast, highlights the speed of change. Change is no longer linear. It is exponential, continuous, and constantly accelerating. Liquid reflects how traditional business models and boundaries are dissolving, requiring fluid strategies. Uncharted represents operating in unknown, uncharted territories with no map. Experimental, relying on rapid prototyping, testing, and learning to innovate. Focusing on flexibility, fostering a growth mindset, and building organizational resilience. Key differences: Vuca versus Flux. Perspective: Vuca sees turbulence as an external threat, while Flux sees change as an ongoing state of existence. Action: Vuca requires managing disruption. Flux requires embracing, unlearning, and constant evolution. Strategy: Vuca relies on planning. Flux relies on experimentation and agility. Leadership: Vuca leaders are stewards of stability. Flux leaders are facilitators of adaptability. Essentially, where Vuca requires navigating a storm with a solid ship, Flux requires learning to ride the wave of a fast-moving, unpredictable ocean. Vuca, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and Bani, brittle, anxious, nonlinear, incomprehensible, are frameworks used to describe the nature of the modern world. Vuca, from the 1990s, describes a chaotic environment, whereas Bani, introduced by Jaime Casio, describes the current state of chaos, where systems are fragile, brittle, decisions cause panic, anxious, effects are disproportional, nonlinear, and events are incomprehensible. Vuca, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Used by military and corporate leaders, it characterized the post-Cold War era. Volatile means that changes happen rapidly and unexpectedly. Uncertain reflects a lack of predictability and information. Complex describes situations where many interconnected factors make situations hard to analyze. Ambiguous refers to a lack of clarity, multiple interpretations of situations. Bani, brittle, anxious, nonlinear, incomprehensible. Developed as an evolution of Vuca to describe the present age of chaos. Bani stands for brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible. Brittle. Systems appear strong, but can break suddenly and catastrophically. Anxious reflects the feeling of fear and uncertainty, leads to paralysis or panic in decision-making. Nonlinear means that cause and effect are disproportionate, creating unexpected, out-of-proportion outcomes. Incomprehensible attempts to understand the why fail, because events no longer make sense. Transitioning from Vuca to Bani. While Vuca helps understand the environment, Bani helps understand the impact of those changes on people and organizations. Leaders are moving from needing to be agile, Vuca, to needing to be resilient and mindful, Bani. Vuca, Bani, and Flux are frameworks diagnosing increasing global instability, transitioning from managing uncertainty, Vuca, to surviving chaos, Bani, and adapting to constant, AI-driven change, Flux. While Vuca and Bani diagnose the situation, unpredictable, or fragile, Flux is an operational model for navigating this liquid reality. Vuca, in 1990s to the 2010s. A. Context. Describes the post-Cold War world. B. Meaning. Volatile, fast change, uncertain, lack of predictability, complex, many interconnected factors, ambiguous, misleading causes. C. Focusing in. Managing change, strategic planning, and overcoming obstacles. Bani, in 2020s. A. Context. Post-COVID or AI era, introduced by James Cassio to describe deeper chaos. B. Meaning. Brittle, systems that look strong but break, anxious, fear of sudden collapse, non-linear, disproportionate cause or effect. Incomprehensible, events that don't make sense. C. Focusing in. Building resilience, emotional intelligence, and empathy in response to overwhelming stress. Flux in 2025 plus. A. Context. The AI era and hyper-dynamic environments, acting as the seamanship or action plan for Bani or Vuca climates. B. Meaning. Fast, relentless speed, liquid shifting structures or norms, uncharted, no maps exist, experimental, continuous testing. C. Focusing in agility, constant transformation, and learning by doing. The comparison table shows how leadership thinking has evolved across three eras. Vuca, which dominated from the 1990s to the 2010s, focuses on diagnosing uncertainty in competitive and market-driven environments where change is difficult to predict. So organizations rely on planning, clarity, and agility. Bani, emerging in the 2020s, describes a world shaped by pandemics, rapid technological change, and climate pressure, where systems feel fragile and overwhelming, requiring resilience, empathy, and adaptability to survive. Flux represents the next phase in the AI era, where disruption is continuous and rules change in real time, shifting the focus from diagnosis to action, prioritizing speed, fluid decision-making, and the ability to move effectively within ongoing chaos rather than trying to control it. Key takeaway. Vuca tells you that it is complex. Bani tells you that it is breaking. Flux tells you to keep moving and experimenting to survive. In the age of AI, survival belongs not to the strongest planners, but to those who can learn, unlearn, and flow with continuous change. Practical examples of a supply chain accident and how it could be addressed under the Vuca, Bani, and Flux frameworks. Here's a concise, scenario-based breakdown for you. Scenario 1. Supply chain management. A key supplier's factory catches fire, halting production of a critical component for your manufacturing line. 1. Vuca, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. The accident is viewed through. Volatility refers to the sudden disruption in supply. Uncertainty comes from the unclear recovery timeline. Complexity arises as multiple suppliers and logistics routes affected. Ambiguity appears in the confusion over contractual obligations and insurance coverage. The counteraction include: activate contingency, sourcing from pre-approved alternative suppliers. Use real-time data dashboards to monitor inventory and lead times. Communicate transparently with customers about delays and mitigation steps. 2. Bani, brittle, anxious, non-linear, incomprehensible. The accident is viewed through. Brittle refers to over-reliance on a single supplier causes fragility. Anxious appears as teams panic over production halts. Nonlinear occurs when a small disruption triggers massive downstream delays. Incomprehensible arises as rapidly changing updates from the supplier add confusion. The counteractions include build redundancy into supplier networks to avoid brittleness, provide clear leadership communication to reduce anxiety, use scenario modeling to anticipate nonlinear ripple effects, simplify decision-making with clear escalation protocols. 3. Flux, fragility, lack of clarity, unpredictability, xenophobia, or exclusion. The accident is viewed through. Fragility appears when the supply chain breaks easily under stress. Lack of clarity refers to the absence of clear visibility on supplier's recovery plan. Unpredictability occurs when the fire causes unexpected regulatory inspections. Xenophobia, or exclusion, appears as hesitation to work with unfamiliar regional suppliers. The counteraction include strengthen resilience through diversified sourcing and flexible contracts. Improve supply chain visibility with digital tracking tools. Maintain adaptive logistics plans for unpredictable events. Foster inclusive supplier onboarding to expand trusted networks. Scenario 2. Supply chain operation. A critical shipment of semiconductor chips from overseas is delayed due to sudden port closures caused by a geopolitical conflict. This disrupts production for a tech manufacturer, relying on just-in-time inventory. 1. VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. The nature of the accident is defined by volatility appears through the sudden port closure with no prior warning. Uncertainty arises because there is no clear timeline for reopening. Complexity increases as multiple suppliers and transport routes affected. Ambiguity emerges from conflicting reports on alternative shipping options. The counteraction solution include activate multi-sourcing strategy to procure chips from secondary suppliers in different regions. Use real-time supply chain visibility tools to track alternative routes. Establish scenario-based contingency plans for rapid decision-making. 2. Bani, brittle, anxious, non-linear, incomprehensible. The accident reveals brittle due to over-reliance on a single port and supplier. Anxious spreads as stakeholders panic over production halts. Non-linear as a small disruption causes massive downstream delays. Incomprehensible regulations change rapidly and unclear customs rules. The counteraction solution include build redundancy in supplier network to avoid brittleness. Implement clear communication protocols to reduce anxiety among teams and clients. Use AI-driven demand forecasting to adjust production schedules dynamically. Assign regulatory compliance specialists to interpret and adapt to changing rules. 3. Flux, fragility, lack of clarity, unpredictability, xenocomplexity. The accident is viewed through. Fragility is evident as the supply chain breaks easily under stress. Lack of clarity exists because there is no unified data on shipment status. Unpredictability increases as new disruptions emerge mid-response. Xenocomplexity appears as external factors, politics, climate, cyber attacks, interact in unexpected ways. The counteraction solution focus on strengthen resilience through modular supply chain design, such as regional micro-hubs. Deploy integrated data platforms for a single source of truth. Maintain flexible contracts with logistics providers for rapid rerouting. Conduct cross-domain risk mapping to anticipate multi-factor disruptions.
Okay, chill on the top.
Yes.